and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. He's the author of the Veil Chronicles series, none other than Mr. David Cary. Welcome to Abstract Essay, Mr. David. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for having me on tonight, and it is great to be here. And yeah, it's just great to be here. I just want to say first of all, thank you for having me, and I just want to say it's great to be able to visit with you and your audience, and I just wish everybody well tonight, yourself and your audience. And so about myself. I am a Christian writer. I am the author of two books so far. I'm working on my third, but it's the series of books is called The Veil Chronicles, and They are available on Amazon and I believe you can get the Kindle version. You can get a paperback version, or also you can get it in hardcover, also. And it is a clean fiction novel. There is no graphic violence. There's no just it's clean. I wrote it from as a Christian. I didn't want to include vulgar language or anything like that because I didn't think it really added to the story. So, but it is a exciting story. It is a now there are it's dark. There's dark tales, dark themes in it. There's trafficking. People get killed, but I just I wrote it from the idea that I didn't need to include that making the violence. There's violence in there. One person gets ran off the road in the story. Another person is, there's violence, but just it wasn't necessary to include graphic violence because I wanted people to read it and like it, and or anybody could read it. Well, they didn't have to be afraid. Well, I don't want my child to read it. Now, I would probably say it may be better for someone 13 or older to read it or read the series because there is some violence in the story. Um, but it's as a writer, and I was telling my wife tonight, when I first thought about writing, I kind of I thought about it, and then I'd go into, let's say, go into a bookstore, and there's all these massive amount of books, and I was like, nah, I just don't even get started on it. Don't even why even start down that road? There's such competition. But I just started writing, and it just came together, and book one was done, and had a great editor. Now I want to definitely, I'm thankful for the editing. The person I hired someone to edit the book, and the same person, their company that edited the book, they did the really good. I mean, the covers are really professional. I mean, there was just so like if someone is out there thinking about being a self-published author, hire if you're doing it, hire an editor because that it just you need someone who can look at your work and make the changes that maybe you can't see need to be made. And so I'm very thankful that I hired an editor. And again, just the covers, I mean, they're amazing. Uh, I think they just did a bang up job, just a wonderful job in the uh, the covers. And so, but I'm glad now. I wrote book one, Marie's Shadow, and not soon after that, I started book two and got through with book two, got that published, and now I'm working on book three. And so far I'm getting really good positive feedback on Goodreads or on Amazon. Your people can leave their feedback on Amazon too, or also getting really good feedback there, getting real positive results. Now, a person today they gave me like a 3-star review today, but they expressed that it just wasn't for them. They said it was a good book, but it just wasn't for them. So I'm thankful for all these. God's really been blessed with all these good positive reviews. And like I say, it's a fast paced, exciting. It's not boring story at all. And I think people will really like them. I really do. I think people that who will read the story will, of course, it's fictional. It's a fictional story, and but it draws from some of today's news.
The concept of veil between worlds is powerful. What was the original spark of inspiration for these central ideas, Mister?
So the veil is like something hidden. In this aspect, it's the veil that this group, which there's a group called the Saffron Veil, and so they hide, they work in secret. So it's basically a secret group that is working behind the scenes to steer events to their favor. They work to political events. They're working in both the political field, the business world. They have their hands in everything. So the Saffron Veil is the, I guess you call them the villains, the villains of the group, of the story. And so but they're not open. They don't. That's their power, is they're working in the background to twist things and move things in the direction that they want to go, to enrich themselves. And it's not really about, some stories about, world conquest, or it's about some nutty group that wants to poison the world or take over the world, or they're just about money. They're just about power and influence. And so that's what, as far as the veil, um, and the Saffron Veil is the official group that I gave, or the name I gave the group.
Very well said, Mr. David. Very well said. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. World building in a series is a massive undertaking. How did you plan to rule history and magic of your world to ensure consistency across multiple books?
Well, there's only going to be 3 books as far as, so in the writing, I basically knew where I was going to end up, where the story's going to end, and so I had an outline, and how I built the. I drew from some stories that are current events, uh, and there's always been, I think, what was it, the builder. There's some groups that always people think that, I'm trying to think of the name of the group that people always, the Bilderbergs, and there's other like shadow groups that everybody thinks controls everything. There's always been these type of rumors that some hidden group, and there's been other, I guess, stories similar to this, where this shadow group is working behind the scenes. But as far as myself, I just, it's going to have, now we're not, in our story, this group has existed for probably 100 years or so. So as we're introduced into the story, introduced to the veil and the Saffron Veil, they've already been existing. They're wielding tremendous amount of power, but now something happens is threatening their power. And that's what Murray's shadow begins is there's a threat to their power. There's a threat that all of a sudden they're not going to be behind the scene, that someone's actually going to tear down. I guess if you call it tearing, and maybe that's a good title for book three. Was tearing. Maybe that I'm actually thinking that might be a good title. Tearing down the veil. So that's what's happening in the series is there's something happens that threatens the veil, and so basically they don't want to be exposed. And in book three, we are actually going to be in that process of so that's what the story is about. The veil is threatened, and they're trying to do everything they can to stop these people who are threatening to expose them, because that's how they're getting their power. Once when people know about them, then they lose their hold and their power over people.
Mr. David, did you draw from any specific methodologies, cultures, or historical events to create the realms on their side of the veil?
No, they're not really. They're not really. There was only one thing I can really think of, and that was a political thing that happened in America where something happened to a politician, and I was like, you know, do they have something? And I guess it's not to be a conspiracy theorist or person, espousing conspiracies, but you kind of also hit, in America, you wonder, like all these politicians, they go to Washington or their state capitals, and they're going to, I'm going to change this, all this kind of stuff, and then yada yada yada, and they end up doing nothing. They end up almost becoming worse than the people already up there. We're going to get rid of corruption in Washington, and so I always thought, wow, do they have something on these people? Do they bring them into a room and say, hey, you talked all these plans, but we know you took this illegal campaign donation, or we know that this happened in your life, and if you don't kind of just be quiet, we're going to expose you to the world. I just kind of like sometimes I wonder if things like that happen, or maybe just the corruption. Because if you look, not to get too political, but if you look at it, how is it that people who go to Washington, who are Congress people, they're making like 154,000 a year, and they come out multimillionaires? They become multimillionaires in a few years. How? Where do they get the money? What happens? And then they go and they work for these big companies or so. But anyway, that's kind of a little. So there is some real world parallels in this book that I drew from. Um,
Mr. David, what's the most challenging part of making the world feel real and immersive, both for you and for the reader?
most things make it real. I don't, Well, one thing I wanted to make sure that when I was that I brought real facts as much into the story. For instance, let's say there's a part of the book, the first book, where, or let's say they needed a airplane. Okay, they're going to fly some people from one part of the country to the other. Well, I didn't want to just name an airplane and then end up being a single engine Cessna. So I did research and find out, and actually got with the AI and to find out what plane would work. I need a plane that carries 12 people. And which plane would work. Or also another part of the story, I needed a place where drug smugglers could meet off the coast of Mexico and U.S. Where would that work? Where would be the ideal place? So, and there's other facts. I try to put real facts in the book. So if someone reads it, and let's say they're an expert, let's say I need an engineering fact, and an engineer read the book and said, "What? You can't do that. That's crazy. That's not even real." So as much as possible, um, I put those real facts into the book, even though it's a fiction book.
Mr. David, before we go on to our interview, what are your short term and long term goals as an author?
Short term is finish the third book of the series. That's the short term goal. And after that, I have several ideas that I have a science fiction series. I actually have almost the whole outline. Not I don't think it's gonna be a series. It might just be one book, but I have pretty much the outline completed. I have some other ideas for, uh, I guess it's called mystery or more thriller books. So it just writing. I just what I do is just come up with an idea and then just kind of see if you know if it's exciting. If it's exciting to me, then maybe it'll be exciting to somebody else. If it's not exciting to me, then it's not going to be exciting just
Definitely.
somebody else. And then but yeah, that's my short term plans. And that's another thing I use. A lot of people talk about AI, but I use AI as a tool. That's another thing I use AI for is when I have an idea for a book, I check to see because I mean, how long would it take for me to search out? I had this idea, outline, storyline. How long would it take for me to find out how many books there are if somebody actually came up with a similar idea? Or if I'm, and I don't want to copy anybody, and I'm not copying, I don't copy people. So I come up with the idea. Here's my outline for my idea. Is there anything else like it? And I get the feedback say no, there's nothing else like it, or something you're somewhat similar, but this is why you're different, or this is how you can even be more stand out even more so. But that's my plans. I got several good ideas. One is going to be a detective. I'm gonna call it a time traveling detectives series, a book I'm gonna write, and but again, my goal is to make what I write different from what other because I think that makes it when you have original. Now that as you know the Bible tells us there's no new thing under the sun. Someone somewhere probably already wrote something similar, but I'm going to do my best to make it original and exciting and entertaining. I guess that's the end. That's the goal is to make it entertaining and maybe teach people a lesson at the same time.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. David, and looking forward for more success. And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be an author like you?
Do an outline, come up with your story, do an outline. Maybe again, check with the just bounce it off, use the AI. Don't let the AI. Don't let the AI. I'm not saying let the AI. Don't let the AI write your story. Write your own story, but you can use it as a tool to see how original your story idea is, and maybe with suggestions on how to make it. But if you let AI, don't let all this thing about AI. You can like there's commercials. AI can write your book in 5 minutes. You're not writing it. AI is writing your book, and it's just borrowing ideas from somebody else. But you can use it as a tool. Just come up with an idea, write your outline down, the beginning, the end, the middle, and that's really the challenging part. Sometimes we know the beginning, we know the end, but that's the in between. It's all about life in between the beginning and the end. What's the in between? What are we doing with the in between? But at least you can get some feedback to where you can find out, hey, this is a great idea. Now, AI will pump you up too. So, but at least maybe you can find out if you're like just copying somebody else or your idea, you're you know you're just writing another book and there's 10,000 similar stories. Maybe you want to rethink and kind of rethink your outline and rethink your plot and everything like that. Change some things up in your story, but but don't let the lack of, or I'm going to say the massive amount of books already published intimidate you. Just go ahead and write it. And it also, yes, and hire a good editor. Hire a good editor.
Thank you for that advice, Mr. David. Thank you so much. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and mental health 101. Love letters in its third season, and movie 101 review, music 101 in fourth season, and science 101 and sex 101 in fourth season or in first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. David, if you could step through the veil into one location from your series, where would you go and why?
Repeat. What was that question again?
If
If I
you could step through the veil into one location from your series, where would you go and why?
Wow, there's so many places in the story. It moves around so much. I mean, it's worldwide. I would just step into the story. I would just step into the story because there's just so many places. There's so many. It happens in so many places in the story. Because from the East Coast, West Coast, South America, just all over. So the story moves fast paced, and various different locations.
So, in short, Mr. David, everywhere. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your series itself?
Yes, go to Amazon and you can find D.L. Cary, last name spelled Cary, Amazon.com, The Veil Chronicles, Murray's Shadow, or The Veil Strikes. The first two books are out, and please purchase. You can get the electronic version or the paperback or hardback, and leave it. And if you like it, especially if you like it, leave a review. Leave reviews.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. David Cary because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Mr. David, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.
More to come, people. See you soon.